Hello again to the next demo flight using XFirstOfficer by ParrotSim and FlyWithLua by XFreezer. This time I show you how to use the first officer with Flight Factor's Boeing 767. In this case we fly the 300 extended range. Last time I showed you the first officer functionality on Ceebos Boeing 737. Meanwhile, some changes and improvements are done. Therefore, I'd like to thank all members on explain.org who helped me with the comments and patience to improve the system. Today we will fly the Boeing 737-300ER from Vienna Airport to Palma de Mallorca. Now some information left before we jump into the cockpit. I will use voice attack for voice command during this flight, but you will see every time I use a voice command which one is used on the bottom of the screen. And all download links of used add-ons are in the description below. I hope you will enjoy the flight. Let's jump into the cockpit and get the plane in the air. So we are now in the cold and dark cockpit and we take a look on the electronic flight pack included in the Flight Factor's Boeing 767. We have configured the ground units are already on and the aircraft doors are open, so we are ready to power up the aircraft. And so we ask the first officer to do that. Power up. The first officer will
power up and pre-flight procedure.
now start to activate battery and the ground power units and do the complete overhead panel flow and activate the systems.
Power up and pre-flight checks complete.
Okay, so and we take place on the captain's seat and start with the aircraft configuration. First we have to load the aircraft. For today's flight we have 220 passengers. The cargo weight is 30,000 pounds and fuel, we have block fuel 37,000 pounds and 449. Okay. Then we optimize the center of gravity and load the aircraft. Then we will start with the briefing. Open the briefing menu, flight information. Flight number for today is Airchild 7818. We see here now the call sign, also left down in the screen. Then we select the Boeing 767. We're flying with the 300 extended range, and the briefing tool has recognized that Flight Factor's Boeing 767 is loaded. And because it is a heavy aircraft, we have now the addition on our call sign heavy, and also here down left on the screen. This call sign left and down on the screen we can hide by uncheck this box. Then we enter the parking position. That is gate Delta 28, and the destination for today's flight is Palma de Mallorca. And I have to check the flight altitude. In the briefing is flight level 360. 36,000 feet. Parameter settings, as we are flying in Europe, is hectopascal. So the flight informations are finished. And we go now to enter the weather information. I have picked them from SimBrief, so we have no information identifier, but I will put in whiskey for Vienna. Runway in use is runway 34. Transition altitude will be 10,000 feet. Wind is 330, 16 knots, and 300 variable 360. Temperature is 14 degrees. Dew point is 3, and the QNH is 1016. Okay, this part is finished. Then we go to the departure. We have now here our IFR request phrase for the IFR clearance. So the call sign is entered, the parking position, aircraft type, the information whiskey we have, Victor, sorry, and the QNH 1016 and the destination. For the departure, we will use our initial waypoint is Ospen, so we take for this departure, Ospen, runway 34, that is Ospen 3 Delta, the departure runway is 34, initial altitude is 5,000 feet and the squawk code is 1200. Okay, that we set. So for now we are finished with the briefing tool, and we go now to the setup for the flight management computer. I use therefore WebFMC, so you will not see me clicking on the panel. First we need to do the position initialization. We are now in Vienna, that is Lima, Oscar, Whiskey, Whiskey. We put it at reference airport. And for the IRS aligning, we use the GPS position and put it to set our IRS position. Okay, that is finished. Then we go to route. We are departing from Vienna, Lima, Oscar, Whiskey, Whiskey, and we fly to Palma de Mallorca, that is Lima, Echo, Papa, Alpha, Lima, Echo, Papa, Alpha. The flight number is Airchild 7818. And then we enter the route. I have to check my briefing. Initial waypoint is Ospen. Then we go direct Abruk. Direct to Seetal. Direct Deza, direct PDOT, direct Taleb, Taleb. Then via Upper November 850 to Balen, and via Upper Tango 250 to Rixot. And that is our last waypoint. So we activate the flight plan, execute. Okay, performance initialization. Therefore, we have to check the electronic flight back. Go to ground. Then we click next to zero fuel weight. It will enter automatically the values. Fuel reserves we should have at Palma de Mallorca is calculated with 4,511 pounds, so 4.5. Cruising altitude is 36,000 feet, and cost index we use 30. Okay, that is finished. Then we go to takeoff. We will use, as we are not that heavy today, we use flaps 5. Thrust, we have 14 degrees outside Celsius. Center of gravity, we have to pick here from the electronic flight pack. It's 19. So we have now also the value for the trim, calculated by the flight management computer. And then we pick our V speeds, V1, V rotate, and V2. And we are finished with the pre-flight configuration of the flight management computer. That means we continue with the departure briefing, open the briefing menu, go to departure, departure configuration, and we can pick now from the flight management computer the data, request data. We need just to check, because there is sometimes a problem with the decimals. We have to increase V1, V rotate is okay, and V2 is also okay. Takeoff flaps is set here, and the trim value from the flight management computer we have to enter manually. It's 4.3, and the minimum takeoff fuel I take from my sim briefing. It's 36,449 pounds. Then we will use pushback, so we tick this one, and the initial heading of the runway 34 is 340. The initial climb speed is calculated by V2 plus 15 knots, but it's possible to change it. And the initial altitude is copied from the clearance and can't be manipulated here because it's anyhow given by the clearance. Anti-ice we will not need for the departure, so the briefing is finished and we check briefing confirmed. Okay. Then let's check. I think the plane is now loaded. Okay. So we can ask the first officer to start the auxiliary power unit. Start auxiliary power unit.
Starting APU.
Okay, first officer is now starting the APU. And meanwhile, we can request the pushback truck. Request pushback.
Ground to cockpit, toes driving up.
Okay, perfect. Then we have to set the parking brake. And we will close the aircraft doors. And remove the ground units except of the GPU, because the APU is not fully running in the moment. Fuel truck we can remove.
APU is available.
Okay, the APU is now available, so we can remove the ground power unit also. And the parking brake is set, so we can also remove the jobs.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect. Set parking brake.
Brake is set. The IRS is aligned. Go here to map. And the last thing we have to do is to enter the departure. We check also here on the electronic flight bag charts. We use Ospan 3 Delta. So we see here the route, and we put in, go to the departure arrival, select runway 34 for departure, and departure route Ospan 3 Delta. Execute. Then we check on the navigation display. That looks good. So we are ready for departure. More or less. Let's do the last things. Before start items.
Before start items. Departure briefing confirmed.
First officer is now doing the last things before the engine start. The only thing we have to do manually is for the Boeing 767 compared to the Cebus 737. We have to set the landing altitude manually.
Before start items complete.
We are now at 600 feet, so we put in for the landing altitude 600. And we are ready for the checklist. Before start checklist.
Before start checklist. Fuel, 37.4 pounds on board, 4 pumps on.
Checked.
Checked. Passenger signs on, windows locked. Parking brakes set. Radio aids.
I will not use radios because I'm flying offline. Set.
Set. Transponder mode, standby, squawk, 1200.
Checked.
Checked. Oxygen.
I have to test. Tested.
Tested. Landing altitude, set 600 feet.
Checked.
Checked. FMC CDU pre-flight.
Let's check. Complete.
Complete. Takeoff speeds, V1 138, V rotate 144, V2 152.
Checked.
Checked. Takeoff thrust.
Takeoff thrust is set for 14 degrees Celsius, but I think I will. Yeah, we keep it. It's okay. Checked.
Checked. MCP setting, speed 168 knots, initial heading 340, initial altitude 5,000 feet, altimeter 1016.
Yeah, all these values were set by the first officer during the before start items, and he picked these data from the briefing tool. Checked.
Checked. Rudder and aileron trim 0. Doors and hatches are closed. Ground equipment.
Let's check to be sure. Yeah, it's clear. Checked.
Disconnected all clear. XA cars.
I do not use XA cars today. Checked.
Tracking checked. Beacon on. Before start checklist complete.
Okay.
Start and push clearance.
Received.
Received. Packs off. Start pressure checked.
Okay, the start pressure is also checked. And we are ready for pushback. There are now two options to start the engines. One option is to start them manually. Then it will be not assisted by the first officer. Or we ask the first officer to do that. Then he will start the engine we have selected. The only thing is we have to manually turn on the fuel control. Start pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
Okay, the route is already selected for the pushback truck.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Brakes released.
Starting pushback, and you may start the engines.
Okay, then we ask the first officer to do that. Start engine number 2.
Starting engine number 2. N2 rising.
N2 is rising. We will wait for the call out.
20% N2.
And fuel on. Okay, engine 2 is starting. And we can look
Starter cut out.
for the pushback. That looks really amazing. This better pushback plug-in. The red engine is now spooling up. And when it's stabilized, we will start the left engine. Okay. Start engine number 1.
Starting engine number 1. N2 rising. %, N2.
Fuel on.
Starter cut out.
Operation complete. Please set parking brake.
Brake set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
After start items.
After start items. After start items complete.
Okay. So,
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. I'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
good. We go for the checklist. After start checklist. After start checklist. Okay, the voice command is not working, but we have a second option when we go to the briefing tool. We see here the next procedure should coming up. Take the after start items. So that was my fault. We need the before taxi checklist. So we can use the command to initiate the before taxi checklist, or we take the command start next procedure. I will take the voice command before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Anti-ice. Off.
Okay, the pushback track is now gone. Anti-ice is off. Checked.
Checked. Isolation valves off. Recall.
Isolation is off. Okay. Recall. Checked.
Checked. Auto brakes RTO. Flight controls.
Okay, and radar. Perfect. Checked.
Checked. Stabilizer trim. Set 4.3.
Yep, that we check again the briefing tool. And that's the same we have here at the flight management computer. The trim was set by the first officer at the after start items. Checked.
Checked. Before taxi checklist complete. Clear signal.
Yeah, the pushback truck is now gone. Received.
Received. Taxi clearance.
Received.
Received. Right side clear.
Left side clear. And we start taxi. We taxi to the runway 34 via taxiway Mike and Echo. First officer has also turned on the taxi lights after the checklist. For the takeoff we will use lateral navigation and we also switch on vertical navigation. The flaps are not set, that we will do during the taxi items. This is a kind of philosophy when to set the flaps on bigger aircrafts, because they produce a huge amount of drag during taxiing. So there are many companies, they set the flaps short before the takeoff. Okay, taxiway Echo. Taxi items.
Taxi
Approaching
items.
29.
Cabin prepare for takeoff. Taxi items complete. Call continue for checklist.
Okay, we see now the flaps moving to position 5. That takes a little time, and that we have to wait before we initiate the checklist, because otherwise we get the wrong status for the flaps from the first officer. So we have now flaps 5 and we can continue for the checklist. Continue.
Before takeoff checklist. Departure briefing reviewed. Pax auto. Flaps, set 5.
Checked.
Checked. Stabilizer trim, set 4.3.
Checked.
Checked. Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Cabin secured. Strobe on. Call continue for transponder mode Charlie.
Okay, the transponder we will activate short before the holding point. Continue.
Transponder mode set TARA call continue on line up.
Okay, runway 34 identified. Approach sector is clear. We can line up.
Approaching 3-4.
Continue.
On runway 3-4.
So, landing lights are on, taxi lights off. Transponder is set, or done by the first officer, and we are ready for takeoff. So, spooling up the engines. They are stabilized, so toga power set.
knots. Go. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Flaps up.
Flaps up.
Passing 3,000 feet. We'll increase now the altitude to 10,000 on the MCP. Departure turn is finished and we go to autopilot. Engage autopilot 1. Okay. Then we further increase to our flight altitude of 36,000 feet. After start items. After takeoff items.
After takeoff items. Thrust mode.
Thrust mode is climb. Checked.
Climb checked. After takeoff items complete.
Okay. The first officer has set the gear level to off and jump the auto brakes to off. The nose gear light here switched off during the gear up, and the wing landing lights, they are staying on until 10,000 feet. That will pass very shortly. And 10,000 feet is also our transition altitude, and the first officer will change the parameter setting to standard. Also at 10,000 feet he will turn the engine status from continuous to auto.
Passing 10,000 feet. Passing transition altitude, Barrow set standard.
Seatbelt signs to auto and the parameter settings to standard. QNH 1013. Okay, we have departed from Vienna. We're on the way to Palma de Mallorca, and as this is a little bit a longer flight, I will see you short before descent. Okay, we are now back in the cockpit. I have now overshoot a little bit the top of descent, so I will now change the MCP altitude to flight level 620 and we initiate the descent. Go to descent page. Okay, the descent has started now, perfect. And we have to do a little bit on the descent briefing. Go to approach configuration. And there's the airport elevation we have to enter. And for Palma de Mallorca it is 27 feet. Confirm the briefing, but the problem is it will not be set automatically by the first officer in the moment, but should work in future release. So we have to put in manually 27 feet, so we put in 30 feet. Okay, descent items.
Descent items. Descent briefing confirmed. Recall.
Okay, we have no messages. Checked.
Checked. Landing altitude.
Is set to 30 feet. Checked.
Descent items complete.
Okay. Meanwhile, we have to enter our approach route. So we go back to the approach briefing, to the clearance. First we have to put in the weather information. We can clear all the information from the departure by reset 80s AVOS. For Palma de Mallorca, I put in Papa as information identifier. The landing runway will be 24 right. Transition altitude, I have to check. The charts. Okay, set by ATC. I will keep it on 10,000 feet. Wind, we have 250 for the heading and 13 knots. Temperature is 24 degrees Celsius and dew point is 18. The QNH is 1018. Okay. Then we go for the approach. We would get the clearance for Rixot 1 Papa. The transition is via the BOR Charlie Delta Papa to the runway 24 right. Okay. That we have to put in to the FMC. ILS runway 24 right, and we take the Zulu approach. The waypoint is Rixot 1 Papa and Charlie Delta Papa. Execute. Okay. Then we check that the navigation display, that looks good. So we do the rest of our approach briefing, approach configuration. We need to enter the reference speeds and auto brakes and so on, and also the landing flaps. Therefore we go to the FMC, to the ref page. We will select flap 30 for the approach. Okay, we have a disconnect message. We go to the next page. Check that just quickly. Yeah. Excellent. Execute. Okay, looks good. Back to the reference page. Flap 30. So we can do here the request data. So we have now flap 30. Reference speed is 138 knots. The approach speed will be plus 5 knots, so 143. Auto brakes, we select 2. The approach procedure is not programmed yet, but the minimums we can select by the approach reference speed. It is calculated, that is the category Delta for the ILS approach. So we pick the decision height for category Delta, and it is 227. Go around heading is, the runway track is 238, and that we have to keep in case of a go around, and the go around altitude is 4,000 feet. So briefing confirmed. And the minimums is also not working in the moment, that the first officer can set it. I have not found a solution yet, but hopefully I will have one in the future. And we put in for the decision height 230. Okay, so we are now finished for the approach. And we do further descent, and I will now immediately descend to 3,000 feet. To the is the altitude we will need to intercept the glide slope for the runway. Yeah, we will need some drag. Charts also here. Lima Echo Papa Alpha. Okay, that is not working. Let's set up the radio for the ILS. We have the frequency 109.9 and runway track is 238. Okay. And we have a VOR radial direct at the airport. Some Saint Juan. Juliet Oscar Alpha. The frequency is 117.7, and we put in the runway track also 238. As additional reference. Okay. And meanwhile, I see we are not descending, so I will descend manually. And you have to descend quickly. So reducing the speed. And let's check. Yeah, that would work. And we go for the approach items. Approach items.
Approach items. Approach briefing confirmed. Approach items complete. Call continue for checklist.
Continue.
Approach checklist. Landing data.
Checked.
Checked. Minimums. Decision height set 230 feet.
Checked.
Checked. Auto brake. Set to.
Checked.
Checked. Navigation.
Set.
Set. Approach checklist complete.
Okay, perfect. So we have to descend a little bit faster because we have to be at 3000 feet here at Muros. That should work so far. So shortly we will pass 10,000 feet and the transition lever. First officer will switch on the landing lights and set the QNH for local.
Passing 10,000 feet.
And also put
Passing
the
transition level
starter
barrow
switches
set
to
to
continuous and set the barrow. Yeah. So we will now reduce the speed to 230 knots and go for flaps 1. And the speed is reduced. I'm wondering why the aircraft is not turning. That is a little bit strange. We go fly heading. And we have to reduce the descent for the flaps. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Okay. Now we have more drag, so we can again descend a little bit faster. That's okay. Yeah, perfect. Flaps 5.
Speed checked. Flaps 5.
Here we put in ILS. The glide slope we receive already, but not the localizer. miles out. The airport. Okay, now the localizer is alive. So we'll activate it. And change the heading for a better intercept. The localizer is now captured. And the aircraft is turning in the localizer direction. That looks good. And we are established in the localizer, and I will also activate the glide slope. It's armed now. Miles to go. And there we see already the airport and the runway 24 right. Glide path indicator is now moving, so we'll capture them very soon. Glide slope is captured and we will reduce speed. And put the gear down. Gear down. Gear down.
Speed checked. Gear down.
Final approach speed is 143. Flaps 15. Flaps 15.
Speed checked. Flaps 15.
Flaps 25.
Speed checked. Flaps 25.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Cabin secured. Speed brakes armed. Gear down 3 green. Landing checklist complete. Setting up MCP missed approach.
Flaps 30.
Speed checked. Flaps 20.
Flaps full.
Negative.
Flaps 25.
Speed checked. Flaps 25.
Flaps full.
1000.
Speed checked. Flaps 30.
Okay. So that is sometimes the problem with voice command. Disconnect autopilot.
Approaching 24 right.
$500. Minimums.
Continue.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Reverser green. Auto brakes disarmed.
After landing items.
Cleaning up.
Don't ask me why, but the auto brakes should be off already. Okay, the APU generator is already available. A little bit more. Yeah, perfect. Parking brakes set. Parking items.
Parking items.
Engines off.
APU generator on.
Chocks on. GPU on. Okay, and I think my X-plane gave up. Yeah, I don't know why, but my X-plane crashed to desktop when I switched off the engines. That happens sometimes on this aircraft, but I don't know for what reason. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this flight from Vienna to Palma de Mallorca. And the next I plan to do is with Collimator's Concorde. I'm still programming the procedures for this aircraft, and I hope that I can present a flight in the near future. So stay tuned and always have safe flights and good landings. Bye bye.